Hello everyone, welcome back to a new episode of How to Reach 2000. We get the white pieces. I think this is the highest rated opponent we faced in this series. And this game is plus 15, that's pretty nice. Only if I win, of course. Knight f6, let's play bishop to f4. d5, e3. This is the classic London. Come on, man. I mean, 1300s can do better than this. Let's be serious. Like, knight c6 is not a very optimal move against d4 openings. And I think 1300 should know this. Let's play c3. I'm not worried about bishop to g4 because I can just play knight to f3. That also isn't a scary move because I can offer a trade of bishops, but also I don't have to do that. The reason why I'm inclined towards offering a trade of bishops is because if they take me, I'm gonna bring my queen out, but also I don't love it. Like, I don't really want to give up my really good bishop because, as you can notice, I have a bunch of pawns on the dark squares. So my light squares in the center are kind of weak and I want some control of the light squares. Let's play knight to f3, very flexible move. Maybe has ideas of knight to h4. In fact, I really like knight to h4 and I'm gonna play it. The idea here is I'm trying to get this bishop and I can play bishop here. That's a good move because now if I take, they can open up the h-file. But actually I'm not scared of that. So I'm gonna take the bishop and say I have the two bishops and I'm happy. Now let's play h3. The idea of h3 is I'm making this rook kind of blunt and this idea is not as good because I can drop back. But we get the move bishop to d6. I can trade, but also I don't have to do anything because I'm not really worried about them taking me. I feel like that actually kind of helps me because I'm going to get a really good clamp on the e5 square. And remember, if you're playing the London system, if you can control the e5 square and the e4 square, you're close to winning, if not winning. So I'm going to play knight to d2. Very flexible move. It also prevents knight to e4. Okay, that makes a ton of sense. You know, they're trying to activate their pieces. Maybe they're intending to castle queenside because that makes sense. If they castle kingside, then the open h-file doesn't really do anything. And I really like playing the move queen to a4. The idea of queen to a4 is I'm going to follow it up with bishop to b5. And I'm going to put a lot of pressure on this knight. And if the queenside castle, I have ideas to win a pawn. But I'm wondering if bishop b5 is better. Because if a6, I can play queen to a4 and they cannot take because of the hanging rook. I also like knight to f3, Eventually I can try to bring the bishop in and then put a knight in the center. Seems like a pretty good thing to do. They go for takes. They go for long castles. I'm not worried at all. And I believe I can already start firing away. I really like bishop to b5. Now my threat is to play knight to e4 and then damage their structure. This knight cannot move. So that's kind of annoying. Yeah, they go for a6, but this is not quick enough. I can play knight to e5, attacking this queen, and if the queen moves away, I can play knight takes knight, and after pawn takes knight, I can play bishop takes a6, and I'm winning a pawn. And obviously, if knight takes e5, then I take the queen, and the knight can capture. They're getting two pieces for the queen, but that's not gonna cut it. Knight to e5, essentially winning a pawn. This bishop is under attack, but I'm not worried. If they take me, I'm gonna take their queen. They move their queen away. Now let's play knight takes knight, attacking this rook so they cannot just take my bishop. If they take my bishop, I'm going to be up in exchange. They go for b takes c6, but now I have... Okay, that was quicker than expected. Let's look at the game review. I would assume the accuracy is going to be really high. I played at 94.2 accuracy and my opponent played at 85.1. I don't think my opponent should have resigned, but it's understandable. They're in a slightly bad position. d4, knight to f6. It's like a very flexible move that masters play, but that's fancy territory and you don't have to do that. Bishop to f4, d5, and this is like a classic London position. Now you just play e3. It's a book move. We basically transposed into d4, d5, bishop f4, knight f6 and e3. So it's essentially the same thing, but like a slightly different move order. Knight to c6, not a good move because in the London positions, like the knight doesn't belong on c6 unless if the c pawn has already moved to the c5 square. So c3, very solid move. Bishop to f5, very good move because now they're occupying this diagonal. And I play knight to f3. I don't really want to play bishop d3 because they can say, I'm going to trade this bishop and you have a bunch of light squared weaknesses in your position, and also your dark squared bishop is not as good because there are like a bunch of dark squared pawns. It's like positional chess. They play e6, makes a ton of sense. They brought their bishop out, so now they can play e6 without actually blocking in their light squared bishop. Now I play knight to h4, attacking this bishop, and they go for bishop to g6, which is a move that I would have played. The idea here is if I take their bishop, they can open up their h file by taking with the h pawn, and the damaged pawns on the g file are actually not that bad. The pawns stay together in a clump, so they're not very bad. F pawn takes is really bad because this pawn is a huge weakness, and also this clump is not as good. Yeah, as you can see, this is better. This is what happens in the game. It's very good that our opponent knows how to take. Like 6 times out of 10, if you can capture with 2 pawns, taking towards the center is a better move. There are obviously exceptions, but in most cases, taking towards the center is a far superior move. I played h3, giving an extra square for my bishop. The thing I was worried about is after knight to d2, I thought they had this move, and if I drop back to this square, they can take my bishop, and I cannot take with the h pawn because they can take my rook. Therefore, I would have to take with the f pawn, and like I said, this e3 pawn is not going to be good. Therefore, I created some extra space for my bishop with the move h3. The idea is if they ever go knight to h5, I can just go all the way back to the h2 square with my bishop. The engine's probably going to say if it's not that scary, they can take me, and I'm going to have these double pawns. But they're very nice, and they're controlling the e5 square. Bishop to d6 makes sense. Knight d2. The idea here is if they take, look at these 2 pawns working well together, and they control the e5 square. So nothing can ever go to the e5 square, and also they can never push this pawn forwards. That's just super annoying for the black pieces. So I really like this pawn. I played knight to f3. The idea is I can eventually bring the knight to the e5 square, and actually that ended up being the decisive move of the game. They played bishop takes f4. I played pawn takes f4. Now they castle. Not a very good move because I can attack their knight, and already this is like a very annoying position for them because this pin is very annoying. The engine doesn't love this because queen d6 to attack this pawn and also get out of the pin makes sense, but my opponent didn't play that and they blundered with a6. According to the engine, this is a mistake. It's a very big mistake because I can play knight to e5 with tempo on the queen, and if the queen moves away, I can play knight takes c6, attacking this rook, and if pawn takes, I can win this pawn. So I played knight to e5 because it's a really good move, and I'm winning material. The position is plus 2.3. Now I take this knight. The engine wanted this. The idea is probably to bring the queen over. In this position, the top 2 lines are taking the knight and taking the bishop, so essentially sacrificing some material. And the good thing for black is I'm not going to have these angry pieces. If they take my bishop, I can take their rook. I'm up material, but at least they don't have like a completely stupid pawn structure. And in the game, they go for the other best move. They both have like the same eval. They go for pawn takes c6, and they just resign. I think what they saw was after bishop takes, if they went king here, this is going to be a mate in 2 because of queen to c3, and no matter where the king goes, I'm going to play queen to b7 checkmate. But actually, after bishop takes a6, they just have king to d7 because the queen is no longer in the d7 square. They resigned because they probably thought they were getting mated. Position is plus 2.8, but it's not the end of the world. Anyways, the opponent decided to resign, and the annoying thing is, look at their time. They have 8 minutes and 59 seconds. They only spent a minute. If they really want to play this quickly, they should consider playing bullet chess rather than rapid chess. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this video.